that the victims of terrorism are called the terrorists, and the perpetrators of terrorism are called the victims. Even here in South Africa, who would have thought it? All these years after liberation, largest life on the radio this morning, unchallenged, is His Excellency, the Ambassador of Israel. There shouldn't be an Ambassador of Israel in free South Africa, never mind one who's unchallenged. Why do I say that? Because Israel is an apartheid state every bit as much as white South Africa was an apartheid state. That's why there should be no ambassador here. I went into a shop in Cape Town 2 days ago. Pick and Pay. It's full from the floor to the ceiling with Israeli produce being sold in supermarkets in free South Africa, when for 20 years people in my country, civilized people, would go around shops collecting South African produce, take it to the checkout, and then drop it in horror and demand to see the manager and refuse to pay for it because there was blood on the oranges that came from South Africa, the blood of racism and apartheid. Why are you selling in your shops fruit and vegetables that's every bit as stained with blood as the fruit and vegetables that came from here during apartheid? Why? Why are your diamonds being sent to be polished in Israel, being dug from the earth here by organized labor, transported through the airport by organized labor, and being sold, sent to Israel to be polished? Is there no one else in the world can polish your diamonds? I've got people in East London that would be dying to polish your diamonds. Don't sully the beauty of your diamonds with having them polished by the blood-stained hands of apartheid Israel. And yesterday, I discovered that no less than the saintly Archbishop Desmond Tutu, operating under a United Nations mandate, has been told by racist Israel that he's not to be permitted into the country. This is the arrogance of this country, a country that was set up by the United Nations, which is a member of the United Nations, can tell the United Nations to get stuffed and behave in such a contemptuous manner to somebody respected all over the world. This is the arrogance of these people. And I've been waiting for the last 24 hours for a thunderous response from the son of Govan Mbeki. He should have said, either Tutu goes in or our ambassador in Israel comes out and he will never go back again. That's what he should have said. Now I'm outstaying my welcome, so I'll just quickly say what the other two things are. We have to withdraw from these occupations, which has even the Chief of the British General Staff, General Sir Michael Dunnart, an unlikely convert to the Stop the War coalition, told Mr. Blair, we have to get out of here soon. Our forces here are doing more harm than good. And lastly, we have to stop propping up the corrupt kings and the puppet presidents who rule the Muslim world almost without exception from one side to the other. Wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, George. We're going to open up the floor now for questions, which we'll take in groups of 3. So if you could just indicate by raising your hand.
Well done. Thanks for the powerful speech. Just on the question of Bush's appointment in Africa, Thabo Mbeki, and just last week or so he's been in Washington talking about the Darfur region. Don't you think that Thabo has cut a deal with Bush, and that's why there was not much media coverage of that issue, that the Americans would blockade Sudan and so on? And also the policies of the US that's been implemented in South Africa, where poor people continuously being marginalized by the Mbeki regime. Well, how would you liken that to the Bush regime, which has been exactly the same?
Hi, my name is Faisal Suleiman. I'd like to know, at the moment there's a debate raging in the UK about Muslim integration and assimilation. The head stuff being the flagstone of this, and whether Muslims can integrate into a civilized Europe, while at the same time trying to maintain some vestiges of what they consider to be cultural imperative or religious imperatives. And I just wanted to know how you see this debate going forward. And following on from what you said, how much of the attitude that others are less than us is driven by inherited, perhaps from a colonial era, races, and how much of it is driven by pure economic imperatives?
This country could very easily, if it's not careful, slip into the belief that if you criticize your government, you are not patriotic. This has been happening in our country. If you criticize the government or any of the ministers, you lose your job. You had mentioned in your speech that you would like to touch on criticism of the ANC, and I'd be very interested in hearing what those criticisms are. Thank you.
Those criticisms about the policy towards Israel, the policy towards representation in Tel Aviv and Tel Aviv's representation here, the failure of the government to respond properly to the blocking of Archbishop Tutu's mission and so on. I don't intend to get involved in the internal politics of South Africa. That's not my purpose on this tour, and would be divisive and invidious so far as my task here, which is to try and focus on the war on terror and the plight of the Palestinian people in particular. But I can assure you, in meetings that I had with ministers yesterday in Pretoria, I made the points that I've made here publicly in a different way, stronger way, to them personally, because I know them very well. I used to drive them around in London in my car when they had no petrol money. I used to buy them fish and chips when they had nothing to eat. And so I'm in a good position to talk to them, and I've made use of that, and I would like to keep that channel of communication open. So I won't respond in the way that the first questioner would like me to, by making a critique, on this occasion at least, of the economic policies of the ANC. I just have to tell you that the government of South Africa has one of the best foreign policies in the world. You have to understand that. I know that it's not good enough. I know that it could be better. But believe me, coming to you as I do from Britain and traveling around the world as I do, I'm in a position to tell you that the foreign policy of your government is better than almost all the other countries. There are some, 1 or 2, 3 or 4, that are better, but not more than that. And so we shouldn't get this thing out of perspective. But we have a right to expect more from a government of revolutionaries who came to power as a result of a racist system being broken between the hammer of the resistance in the country and across its borders and the anvil of an international movement of solidarity. That's how apartheid was broken. It could not have been broken either by the hammer alone or by the anvil alone. It had to be broken between the two. And now South Africa has a responsibility, a duty, to be a part of the anvil on which other apartheid states and other injustices can be broken. I want to say something about Darfur. I was going to, but I ran out of time. You really ought to smell a rat, you know, when you see George Bush and Tony Blair and the Zionist movement and the fanatic Christian fundamentalist Bible belting 70 million fanatics that form the base of the Republican Party in the United States, when you hear them and see them daily preaching about a human rights problem in one part of one country in Africa, don't you smell a rat about that? After all, it's not as if there are not many others to choose from, but they're not remotely interested in any of the other tragedies that are going on in Africa. Why are they so interested in this one? Why have they sowed such disinformation on this one? I have a radio show on Saturday and Sunday nights. I get people phoning me up. A very large number of people in the West think that what's happening in Darfur is a conflict between Christians and Muslims. There are no Christians in Darfur, none, zero. Some think it's a Sunni-Shia battle. There are no Shiites in Darfur. Some think it's about Arabs and Africans. All Sudanese are Africans. Some think it's about language. But all the Darfur people speak Arabic. The conflict is a serious one. Though it's being hyped, it's still a serious one. But it's a conflict